Are you ready to laugh? Are you ready to cry? Or did you just come for a turkey on rye? In the middle of a deli there in New York City, it's the In the Aisle podcast. Dan and Jackson in the middle of a New York deli, here's the In the Aisle podcast.
Sitting between Heinz Homestyle gravy flavored with savory beef and Crasdale 100% lemon juice. It's another episode of In the Aisle with Dan and Jack. Sitting
Hello.
in an anonymous deli in New York City that's not in the financial district.
Untrackable.
And we're joined by a very special guest. You might know him from his Netflix special, Crazy Rich Asians, The Daily Show, Ronny Chieng.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Hi, thanks for coming into our studio.
This is super cool. I mean, everyone's got a podcast now. Everyone needs a gimmick.
Yeah.
This is as good as any.
That's, you know what I thought? I was like, I'm not smart enough to come up with a gimmick, so let's just have a different location.
No, this isn't a gimmick, though. This isn't, well, it is a gimmick, but it's also more than that. It's actually a lot of history behind it, which is what I liked about it.
Yeah.
When you first told me the idea that this is the deli your family owned and owns and that you grew up in.
Yeah.
Working in this deli.
A lot of history here.
Yeah, and
I
it's
mean, so
Manhattan.
many memories to this area of Manhattan specifically.
Sure. I mean, this deli, I'm in it right now, and my first impressions are it seems pretty modern. So I can't imagine it being that many decades old. Or how old is it? How long has it been in your family?
I would say it's coming up close to 30 years maybe.
And was it someone else's deli before that?
I don't think so. I
So
think
you guys
actually,
started it.
I think they came in here right when this building transitioned to residential. They came in with the deli. So they've been here since this has been a residential building.
Yeah, it's a big part of New York history, man. 30 years in the 90s.
You want to talk about full circle? I'm moving to this building in 2 months.
For real?
Yeah.
Why
In
did
May, I'm
you?
moving
Just by coincidence, or you purposely want to move to this
Purposely
building?
wanted to move here. I mean, they gave us a good deal because I know the people to an
Wow,
extent. So they cut
good
some
for you,
money
man.
Off. But yeah, it's like full circle because there was a period of time where I was doing stand-up selling tickets and shit in Times Square, and I lived down the shore in Jersey.
No,
So
I
at the same
remember.
so at the same time, instead of going home, I would sleep in the storage room here on top of the washing drying machine.
Oh, my
And now I'm
God.
actually going to have a bed in this building.
Yeah.
That's
Who would have
crazy.
seen it coming,
Not
right?
me.
That's
Not me.
huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's you. Maybe I'm ignorant because I didn't grow up in New York. I meet more immigrants to New York, not just non-Americans. I mean American immigrants as well.
Yeah.
Not from New York. Here, then I meet the actual true blue New Yorkers, born and raised. And you're true blue, born raised Manhattan.
No, born Manhattan, raised down the shore in Jersey. Born in Brooklyn, actually, but my parents went to Jersey relatively quickly.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
but still, you're connected to Manhattan in a way.
Yeah.
You can't get more Manhattan than a freaking deli in Wall Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and running deliveries is like an 11 or 12-year-old.
Yeah.
There's nothing more New York
Yeah.
than that. Because
So-
you have to learn the city on your own. Like, just going out and be like, this is the building you need to bring this food for. Good
Yeah.
luck finding it.
Yeah, it's like if you were to tell someone your story with no time frame behind it, they'd be like, "Oh, it was the 1920s when this kid was doing that." You know?
Yeah, you'll be the guy in The Godfather with the hat, and then some guy comes in and fires you because someone tries to get his cousin in, and then you end up killing him or something. I don't know.
So
I
many
can't remember The
awful
Godfather.
memories of running deliveries, freezing cold around here.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I met you when you were going to. I remember you like if you had a late night, you just sleep in the port authority or something.
I slept in the Port Authority a few times
Yeah.
because the way the
Dude.
bus worked, there would be like a 4-hour period where there was no bus back to Jersey.
Yeah,
So you just have
be
to
homeless
do
then.
spots. Yeah. There was one. I remember seeing you at the cellar shortly after this. I remember specifically I worked the cellar for about a year before whatever happened, and I stopped getting as many spots there. But there was a winter where I drove in from Jersey because there was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Actually, I couldn't drive. There was one train coming in. I took it in.
Yeah.
No buses going home. So I took my whatever $40 cellar spot.
Yeah.
And I got a $200 hotel room in Midtown Manhattan because I was too scared to tell Esty I couldn't do the spot.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just did my one spot and then got in a hotel room that I spent way too much money on just because I was too scared to tell her I couldn't
That
come in
sounds-
the snow.
That sounds about right. Man.
That's one of those fun comedy stories. So many fun. You know, you started stand-up in
Australia.
Australia. I remember that because I remember meeting you right when you had just like gotten the third wedding, or you were going close
Yeah.
to the third wedding.
That's
You were
right.
in between all of those weddings.
Yeah. And I met you, and I remember. Dude, I haven't seen you in a while now. You've
Yeah.
lost a ton of weight, man. I
Yeah,
haven't seen you
I
in.
wanted to lose weight and disappear, so I come back looking completely like a
Yeah.
different person.
You succeeded.
A new try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I haven't seen you literally in
Couple
about a
years.
year now.
Yeah, year or two.
Year or two? You went to LA for a little bit?
Yeah, I was disappearing there for every now and again just to get my head right. You know, when you try to lose that much weight, it's tough, and sometimes you just need to change the scenery.
Damn.
To keep things. So I would go out there for 3-4 weeks, do spots, just stay out there, sublet a place on Airbnb for a month and a half.
Wow. You're living
That's
the
where I
life.
started working out again. That's where I started like just kind of getting in a better mindset to put myself in this position.
Wow, that's huge, man.
Yeah,
Because
and
I lost.
now I get to move here. I mean,
Right.
it's fun.
Yeah, you're killing it.
I would rather be in New York by far.
Right. I mean, I lost not as much weight as you, but I lost like 10 kilos, which is about 20 pounds.
Yeah,
I lost 20 pounds like twice in my life.
yeah.
Lost it, put it back on, lost it. So, man, keeping it off is the hardest, man.
Keeping it off is very difficult, but
It's-
this is the first time where I'm like, I'm definitely gonna keep it off because it's just too fun with it off.
Right.
I thought life was fun fat, and then
Yeah.
I got fit, and I was like, whoa, you guys were onto something here.
But I think I say this on like every episode. You haven't seen him in a year, but I see him every week, and I'm like, he's getting skinnier every week.
Right.
Like it's shocking.
Sure.
Like, it's
and I
not
say the
coming-
same thing because I have to start a podcast sitting next to this kid. When you sit next to someone this attractive, you need to get better looking.
And how did you guys meet?
We've
well,
never talked about that on the podcast simply because I don't know how.
how we met.
I know you annoyed me in front of the Grizzly pair.
Yeah, I was a barker, and Dan was already kind of well, he was established,
Uh-huh.
and so first of all, I had no idea we were the same age because he was like.
I
He
looked
looked
miserable
terrible.
then. Oh, I looked terrible.
Yeah.
He just like not just like the build and everything, but just like the wear and tear of comedy. You could see it on his. I was like, this guy looks
Not
like
just
a
the build,
thir-
but your face was weathered too.
Yeah, you look like a 30-year veteran of just like
Yeah,
hardened
you
by
did.
everything.
Yeah, that's what I say
And
on
he would
stage. I
just-
look like I grew up in a lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would just like you would regale all like the young comedians who were your age, but like we all looked up to you with stories.
I did love talking shop. There's something about being at a comedy venue and having other comics around you just talking shop about the road
Yeah.
and the city.
Because
So
nobody
fun.
gets it. Nobody else gets it.
Yeah.
It's only a conversation you could have in that group.
Yeah, everyone else asks too many stupid questions or inappropriate questions or
Dude, when I was
Yeah.
listening to your special and you were talking about like dealing with your wife's friends,
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to put a gun in my mouth just hearing it. I was like, this is so unbearably
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and then it was like he hit the nail on the head, and then the next line I was like, fuck, they do say that too. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? The only thing that is the worst to me is when someone's like, all right, funny guy, tell me a joke, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's very bad, and that one I've learned to deal with it a lot better now, and I've also learned to not that I learned, but you do this long enough, eventually you lose all your old friends
yeah,
because you can't stay in touch with them anymore because our schedules are completely different.
right.
And then you
just
make new
realize
friends.
You might have grown past them as people.
Yeah, grown past them as well. I knew a lot of. I went to law school, so all my friends from university were these type A personality types. So some of them, all my good friends from that period, I still
Yeah.
keep in close touch with, and it's always great. And then some of the kind of not we want like ever close friends, but people from that world and that mindset, it's the conversations you can't even have conversations with
Yeah.
them because
Yeah.
I feel similar. I was
Yeah.
from the athletic world of like being a baseball player. When I see the kids I grew up playing ball with, I
Yeah.
can't really stand a lot of them, like in what they've become as people.
really,
Like
damn,
just
you
real, like still trash. Yeah, four of them
Wow.
surprised me at a show recently, and I didn't really tell them to come. They're like, "Hey,
Sure.
do you have spots?" And I was like,
Sure.
"I got this show in Brooklyn if you want to come."
Sure.
They sit right in the front, stage left. This was 2 days ago, and they heckled everyone,
Ah.
specifically female comics. They were
Oh,
going
that's
at
awful.
really more tough,
That's
but they
awful.
were heckling everyone. And then they're like, "We're here to see the headliner, Dan Lord." It was a showcase show, so that was one of the worst things they could have
Right,
said
right,
because
right.
I wasn't even going last.
right.
And it was, I remember them coming up to me, and that was so fun. I was like, "Guys, I really don't want to talk to you. I'm sorry." It's
Wow.
Valentine's Day. I gotta go. My girlfriend's here. I don't really deal with this
okay.
right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's nice of them to make the effort to come and buy tickets and not, like.
They did buy tickets. I will
Yeah,
say
they
that.
didn't like hook you up.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hook me up? Blah blah. They just came, and I always say like the good friends are ones who just come.
Yeah.
Like if you want to come see the show, you just come.
Yeah.
You don't need me to,
Yeah, can
like
you
usher
put me
you
a
into
comp
the.
list?
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's like look, how do I know when you're performing? It's like I see you
Yeah.
watch my Instagram
Yeah.
stories. You see I'm posting where I'm going to be that night.
Yeah. And also, there's a few levels to this. Like one is we don't want. Because we want to be professionals. We don't want to perform to friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we rather just perform to strangers. We rather that.
Yeah.
It is
And-
weird performing for a large group
Yeah.
of friends.
And then the second aspect of that is like, you ever notice the people who never ask for tickets? They just show up and they're like supportive and they don't ask dumb questions. Those are the people you always want to give free tickets to.
Yeah.
But they never ask for free
Yeah.
tickets. And the people who ask for free tickets are always the ones where you're like, I don't want to fucking give you anything.
Yeah.
And those are also the ones who understand after the show, maybe you don't want to hang out with them
Yeah.
immediately. Like,
Oh.
there are some friends who really do get, like, there are some people I grew up with who definitely understand it and like being around it and
Yeah.
respect it. And there are some who just like the joke. Like, they just ask you when you perform, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, I just told you.
Right.
You know when I'm performing, and
Yeah.
you're still not going to come.
It doesn't even matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
The worst to me is like there's no explaining to someone who's not in it
Yes.
that performing for 6 people may look from the outside, the optics of it could be sad, but it could also be the most fun you're going to have that
Yeah.
night at a show.
Yeah.
And so like if your friends are there and they're part of a 6-person crowd,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, you're in your head instead of being like, hey, I'm just going to give it my all
Exactly.
for these 6 people.
Because we're at work. People
Yeah.
don't understand we're at work. And it took me a while doing it to also understand that idea of like after the show, we have a lot of adrenaline going, man. We're not here.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't hang out. Like, I'm always amazed by the people who after the show they're like, okay, I'll see you. Like not even a showcase, like a 1 hour. I'll do like an hour theater show.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well I'll meet you at show ends at 9:30. I'll see you 9:35. I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, man, you're not gonna see me until maybe 11,
Yeah.
maybe, because
Yeah.
I'm after shows like, and I thought for the longest time I thought I'm being too impolite or in my own head with it, and then I realized like, oh no, man, I just had a lot of adrenaline. Like your biochemistry is completely off, and so when you
Yeah.
meet people, you're weird after shows, and some people don't get it, and it took a while for me to. First of all, say don't come backstage. I'm gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. Like, don't come because I'm still trying to come down from this high.
Right.
And also for the people who come backstage to understand that. So my wife does a pretty good job of that as well. It also took a while to understand like why after shows I don't like to mingle with anybody.
It's
my
a
friends.
serious decompression
Yeah.
needed after, especially an hour-long performance, because you've given
Yeah.
so much of yourself
Yeah.
up there, and you just need the time to come down and be like, all right,
Yeah.
this happened.
Exactly.
Let me get it out.
So
So, like, when you're on the road,
yeah.
do you meet the crowd after? Or
No.
No.
no, I stopped doing that.
I was gonna say you didn't. I still do, and it
It's
gets tougher as it goes on. I
Yeah.
love you get to see some people that you've seen a few years in a row now. Like, oh, you've been in Philly 3 years now,
Yeah.
but it still gets a little tough.
Yeah.
You're like, I need this time to come down from
Yeah.
the set.
What was the shifting point for you?
Not to pat myself on the back, but when I was in Australia, I was doing pretty well. Pretty early on, like 3 years in, I was selling kind of small theaters, and every year I would double my numbers. And so I went from like 50 seaters. The next year I was doing like 150 seats, and then 500 seats, and then I was like 1,000 seats. And
Damn.
and this whole time I would be like, I'll meet everyone after the show, meet everybody, and it helped a lot. I think it helped kind of make people feel like they had a bond with you, and they come back again next year. And that was the idea, to always double your numbers. And I remember, I think it was after I came to America and touring around American comedy clubs and just realizing like, I do this as a bit in my show now. Like, guys, the night has peaked. Like, if we meet, we're both gonna have a bad time. Like, because I'm gonna lose my temper. You're gonna have a bad time because you're gonna think I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But really, it's not you, or it's just that you guys ask me too many stupid questions, and I don't. Yeah. So I have this whole bit about how you guys are like, I love all of you, but for my own mental health, I can't meet you guys because and they can't understand. I think because it's me and my persona, and
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
And the truth is, after the show, you meet people, and it's always bad for me because it's
Yeah.
always like, they ask you a dumb question. They'll try to give you a joke. They'll shout your own joke back at you.
The
They'll
giving the jokes
try to take a
stuff.
photo, but the camera's never ready. They'll ask you to do a video thing to their niece or nephew who's a fan of yours. It's all this stuff which to them it's like, what's wrong? It's,
Yeah.
because it's a 1 second interaction.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like you see this every single time for like 1,000 people. You're like, nah, I can't do it. So
But don't you ever think like if you lose your cool on someone, then that might be exactly what they're like. He did the thing he does. His boss is cool on me.
Yeah, but I'd rather not have that.
Exactly, of course,
I
of
don't
course.
need to deal with that.
It's just such a pain. Yeah.
I remember
and-
hearing a story when David Tell would get to the point where he hated getting swamped after shows, but he was getting sent Jaeger from Jaeger that he would hand out bottles to people after the show to be like, hey, go have a good night. Get away from me.
Yeah.
That's
Kinda
funny.
just be
That's
like,
very
"Get away."
tell.
And then there are some comedians really roll into it. Like Kreischer loves. He'll tell
It
the people
depends.
where he's going to drink after. And
Yes.
he'll go drink with them and party all night with them.
Yes, it depends
I'm
on your
somewhere
personality.
in the middle.
Yeah.
It's always in the middle. I have gone out and drank with crowds after, and then there are times I've disappeared.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just be like, yeah, I'll see. I mean, I remember reading Doug Stanhope's book, and he's like, yeah, I have rules for when I notice someone's getting too clingy, how I distance myself from them.
Right.
Because there are some people after a show who will hang around
Stanhope
for a bit too
especially.
long. Him
He's
too,
like a
'cause he has
cult
that
hero.
crazy cult following.
Yeah. So for sure, I'm very surprised that you, Oh yeah, and by the way, I mean all this stuff. It's not arrogance that you don't want to meet people. I mean maybe it's 20% arrogance, but 80% of it is just like. It's like we're just gonna have a bad time, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's no point for this. I'm not enjoying myself, and because I'm not enjoying it, you're not gonna enjoy it. And you
Yeah.
know, my whole thing is with comedy. My whole approach was I don't really like to pander.
Yeah.
In the comedy that I do.
Yeah.
So naturally off stage, I don't like to pander off stage
Right.
either. You know, it's like, what can you do? You like it or you don't like it, and you know, we don't need the feedback. We know better than anyone how we did, and like, there's
Yeah,
no
like,
point meeting. It's like you paid and it's over, and that's
Like you
it.
said, it peaked. Like
Yeah,
you're not
the
gonna
night peaked,
the
yeah.
laughs that we're having in this show. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna deliver these laughs to you when we
Yeah,
meet after.
yeah.
This is the biggest pop you're gonna hear of the night.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that you met these athlete friends and they didn't get it, because I was about to say the type A personality, law school, investment banker, management consulting, corporate types, they don't get this. Obviously, you know, their
Yeah.
whole mindset is 5-year plan and you know, how do I minimize the risk in my life and maximize outcomes and like basically make money and get promoted, right? But athletes, you would figure they of all people would understand the grind, the need to focus in
They
shows.
understand that part. They don't understand how to act in comedy clubs a lot of
Yeah,
times.
see,
Like
that's
the
a-
Jersey ones that I grew up with, like they still have that like, oh, there's a female comic up there. Let me be rude to her and say misogynistic things.
Right.
That's what was happening the past show.
Yeah. There's a weird group of people who show up and their idea is that I bought tickets. If I'm having fun,
Yes.
then that's all that matters.
Yes.
And it's like, well, you're having fun, but you're ruining it for
Yeah,
everyone
they don't
else.
like you said. Sometimes they don't realize it's work. Like they came up to me after the show because some people were crowd working them because they'd be very annoying. I got up on stage. The first thing I said was, "I'm very embarrassed to know these people," and then I took a stance on stage where I was like this on the wall, where I was facing the crowd, and I very clearly turned my back to them as if to tell them, "Shut up."
Yeah.
And after the show, one of them came up to me. They're like, "Why didn't you talk to us? Why didn't you roast me?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Because I'm at work.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting paid for what you just saw. I'm getting money for that set.
Yeah.
You're not part of my work.
Yeah.
You're part of my past."
People don't get it.
Yeah.
But what's weird, again, it's weird because I'm assuming if we went down to like a baseball thing and we said, hey man, can I meet you before you get on bat,
Yeah.
can you shout out, you know, like do something dumb?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, no man, we're trying to focus on
Yeah.
the one job I have, which is to hit this fucking ball.
Yeah, after you hit the ball, turn back and wave and smile.
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah,
What do you mean
right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that. This
Or
is
like
a game.
even behind the home plate and you just shout, you know, like, oh man, your mother's a whore, whatever. And it's like after, if they get angry, you're like, oh, I thought that's what you do at baseball.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
breaking
yeah,
each
you know?
other's balls, man.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, but that's my point is that if the roles were reversed, I wonder if they'd be, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so weird that of all people, I would expect athletes to understand, because I feel like we
Yeah.
gain a better understanding for them through doing comedy, right? Like I have a great appreciation for athletes and artists, of ballet dancers, everybody. I'm
Oh,
like,
big time.
yeah.
Comedy really, I'd say this to everyone who like meets me now, who knew me when I was growing up. Comedy made me a better person for sure. Because like growing up in New Jersey, I was so sheltered. When you get into comedy, you meet so many different people, so many different backgrounds, so many stories. I mean, if you get into stand up and become a worse person, that's on you. Because this expands your world a lot.
It definitely has taught me boundaries. You know what I mean? Like in the real world, if someone just starts talking to me, I'll listen to what they have to say. But it's like if you're up on stage and someone's annoying you, you got to be able to just quickly shut them down.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And just like set a boundary for yourself.
It's an interesting job, stand up.
Yeah. I saw at the New York Comedy Club. This is why I love the New York Comedy Club as well. Like I was walking in to do a set at Gramercy, and some guy was getting thrown the fuck out. Like, well, like this dude who was probably like in his 40s, 50s, maybe, older gentleman with like at least 5 other gentlemen, same age group, all shirts though, button-down shirts,
Oh.
Yeah.
pants, and get thrown out. And this guy was so angry that he was yelling basically like, "What, you can't you're not allowed to heckle at comedy shows. He's like he was furious as well. He was like, what, this isn't Phantom of the Opera. This isn't Broadway. It's a comedy club. That's what you're supposed to do. He was so angrily adamant that that's what you're supposed to do. And the bouncer was like, literally, the guys, they don't fuck around. They throw this guy out. And then he started like trying to get support from everyone else in line who was lining up for a club. He's like, these guys just threw me out. All I did was heckle the comic and I got thrown out. And he didn't know that the first person in line was actually another comic waiting to get in. So she was like, the comic was there. She was like, yeah, no one paid to see you. Yeah. That's incredibly rude. We paid to see the comics, not you. And then he started going at it with her. But my point is just how angrily adamant this dude was that he was allowed to just fucking yell shit out in the thing.
And at that point, that's not even like a guy who cares about comedy. It's just like a grown man who can't be told no. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It could have happened anywhere. This was just the.
And I was hoping he would tweet at the comedy club the next day, and he did tweet. And I was gonna like retweet it and be like, yo, whoever, this guy should get fired. And then he deleted his tweet before I could like screenshot it. Yeah. But he was just saying like, at New York Comedy Club, this club sucks. They can't handle light, quote unquote, light heckling. And I was just like, oh damn! Like, if we had video,
it's part of your job. A lot of times hecklers will say that, like, I'm helping you. No, you're not.
No.
Yeah, the beauty of a joke can be in the subtlety. It's like, you imagine if you went to go see a Max Richter concert and when the violin player got really quiet, someone was like, like you would never.
And I wish I was hip enough to know what a Max Richter is.
like
sounds like he's got a tiny desk.
If we video that incident, that guy would have been fired. That's how like aggressively.
Oh, it was that bad. Like, it
was that bad.
Yeah.
Like it would be like, hey, whose company hires a guy who thinks that this kind of behavior is acceptable?
Right.
It's
there
like,
was that woman a few years ago in front of a club in Philly. I forgot who the comic was involved, but she was so rude to the staff that she got fired from her gig. Like, because the video went viral. She was assaulting a comic outside of a club.
Oh, yes.
Remember that? And she ended up getting fired.
That may have been Will Savance.
It was Will, right? I wanted to say Will, but I didn't want to be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Will.
I think it was Will, man. Yeah. And she was like she was like a lawyer or something.
She was like a real big job.
Or a journalist.
A journalist. She got in trouble. Or maybe a TV newscaster.
Yeah, she was wasted. Yeah. I mean, not that it's any excuse. She was clearly wasted, and there should be repercussions for that.
Yeah.
But this other dude, he was lightly wasted, not
more dick than wasted.
Yeah, more dick than wasted.
The most interesting people are to me are the ones who get wasted, make a fool, and then defend themselves the next day. Because I don't drink anymore, but when I did, if I woke up and someone was like, "Do you remember saying this?" I'd be like, "I wish I was dead." Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like, so the idea
full apology, like
and the idea of being like, "I mean it," is like, how can you possibly say that right now?
Defending the indefensible.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
What did you do before stand-up?
I was in law school, and I went straight to comedy from law school, man. I didn't have anything in between.
You grew up in Australia, or?
No, I just went there for college.
Oh, no shit. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Singapore. From Singapore, Malaysia, yeah.
Malaysia.
So the town I'm from in Malaysia, Johor Bahru, it's across the causeway to Singapore. The causeway is just like this bridge. So it's essentially like Jersey, Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah.
So Johor Bahru to Singapore is like Jersey to Manhattan.
Oh, that's awesome.
To the point where I would wake up, like go home in Johor Bahru, wake up and take the bus to go to school in Singapore, like across the country and go back. So every morning you're crossing a country border just to go to school.
Do you have
crossing a country border to go to school? That's so cool.
Do you have to is it as simple as just getting on the bus and going, or do you have to have like your passport or anything with you?
Yeah, we had a special like student pass.
That's wild.
Yeah. But it's like geographically, like conceptually is wild, but geographically it was like Jersey, Manhattan.
Yeah. Right, 20 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes.
I mean, with the jam and all that, it would be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But the actual distance was Jersey, Manhattan.
That's wild.
Easy, yeah.
What was your first job as a kid?
First job? Not much, man. I mean, my parents were always like, just, focus on school.
Yeah.
So don't work. Yeah. So I
That's interesting.
I wanted to work because I wanted to make money to spend on bullshit. Yeah. But they were like, yeah, don't.
They were more focused on you going to school.
Yeah. They were like, there's no point. Like whatever you earn, it's like short-sighted. They saw it as short-sighted earnings because when you could be focusing on education and then potentially earn more.
Yeah.
So they're like, don't spend whatever like 2 hours, 4 hours a day working at McDonald's because you could use that time to study, and then
Right.
you know.
That is a very practical thought. I
Yeah.
guess maybe
Yeah.
I'd be smarter if I didn't have to stock these shelves.
Do you mind going back in time and talking to my parents, and telling them that philosophy?
Right.
Like, Mom, I got to use that time to study.
Oh, I hate it because where we lived in Jersey, we'd have to wake up. Like when I would work with my dad at 2 a.m, leave at 3 to get to the deli by 4:30.
Yes.
Get the deli ready for 5:30 to open or
and
whatever.
then go to school.
No, God, this was weekends. He would make me do this. It wasn't until I got to college after I dropped out that I worked full time here.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I do, obviously, I think that working would have helped mature you a lot. Like learn the value of $1 and probably gain some interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, there's benefit to both.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Did you have a job before you got into comedy?
I mean,
Or you went right from college to comedy, and it seems like comedy worked quickly.
Yeah, comedy worked out for me quicker than law. Like I wasn't a very good student, so I graduated from law school, and then I passed the bar in Australia, and I actually came here to do a New York bar in 2011 because I always wanted to move here, and I
Yeah.
thought passing the bar exam would be the quickest way to move
Did
here.
you pass the bar here?
No, I failed.
You failed?
I did it in Buffalo. It was my first time in New York, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in New York City. And
In Buffalo.
yeah, and I remember, dude, that trip, I came to do it in 2011 by myself, and I'd been doing comedy a year at
Yeah.
that point, and maybe a year and a half. I was a year and a half into comedy, and I really wanted to come here, and so I studied for the bar, and I came to New York. After I finished the bar exam, I spent like a couple days in Manhattan, just hanging out. I went to Dangerfield. I saw, Julian McMahon. What's his
Yeah.
last name? Julian. he had-
McCullough.
McCullough.
Yeah.
Yeah, McCullough?
McCullough, right? It's something
McCullough,
like
that's
that.
right, Julian McCullough. And he had this joke about his cat and Pop Tart, and his cat's name was Pop Tart. And then I went down to the cellar, and there was this bouncer there who I didn't know anyone at the cellar. I just knew the cellar.
Yeah.
And so I went there in 2011. I was a huge fan of Todd Barry.
Of course.
And I listened to
Medium
those
Energy is one
albums.
of my favorite albums.
Yeah, for Off the Bone, everything. And so I saw he was playing at the cellar, so I went to the cellar, and it's sold out. Whatever,
Yeah.
it's always sold out. And so I asked the bouncer, like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you, but I came from Malaysia. Like, I just want to do my best stand in the corridor and see Todd Barry for like 2 minutes. I'm just a huge fan. 2 minutes, and then I'll get the fuck out of here. And the bouncer was like, yeah, okay. And he just let me in, and so I stood there underneath the staircase.
Yeah.
I was standing there. I was watching Todd Barry, and then Amy Schumer came down the stairs, and then she was hosting, and so
Wow.
I was just holding a notebook, and then she said, "Are you on next?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just here to see Todd Barry. I'm just a huge fan."
Imagine you were like, yeah, put me up.
Yeah, if I said just put me up, and then Amy said, and that's the first time I met her, and then Amy was like, "Oh, okay," and then she went inside and she got Todd Barry to come out, and I met Todd Barry.
No
I was like,
way.
"Oh man, I'm a huge fan. I'm from Malaysia," and Todd was like, "Oh, I have a joke when I mention Malaysia." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that joke is it's awesome to hear anyone mention Malaysia in a comedy album from New York." And then we just said hi. I didn't get a photo. I just like, okay, nice to see you, Todd. And then I left. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then 2 years later, I was at Just for Laughs, and I was invited to Just for Laughs, and I saw Todd again.
So
and
3
then
years in, you're doing JFL. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then he remembered me from that.
Oh, no
fucking-
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So-
Do you
Some
guys
of those
talk about it to this day?
He kind of forgot about it, but when I moved to New York and he asked me on his podcast, I told him that story again. But
Oh, that's really
he
sweet.
he didn't remember. And then I was always trying to figure out who that bouncer was, because now that I'm performing at the cellar, I know all the bouncers, and I
Yeah.
was like, who was that guy?
Yeah.
Because they don't do that, man. No one would ever let you just come
No.
in. They're super strict with that stuff. Even comics, they're like, get the
So you
fuck
probably
out.
got fired shortly after.
No, I think he was the one who died.
Oh yeah,
I think it was Shaq.
Yeah.
I think Shaq was
Oh.
because I keep telling people that story, and they're like, that sounds like Shaq.
Oh,
Anyway, but
yeah.
I never got to meet him, but
That place is that staircase. I mean, I worked at the cellar for a year.
Yeah.
Like when you see that door open, so many times you look up when you're waiting to go on. You're like, oh, Chappelle's walking down the stairs.
oh yeah.
Here goes the set.
Yeah.
I was there that night at Thanksgiving where he walked the whole room with him.
Oh,
Remember?
to
He-
IHOP or what?
Yeah, he had like a party at his hotel, and he was just like, "I'm having a party. Come
Yeah.
with me." And the whole crowd left with him.
Yeah,
It was
he's
one
like
of
a
the
folk
craziest
hero.
things I'd ever witnessed.
He's a folk hero. I think he does.
He went up first too, so the seller had to pay everyone holiday pay, and no one had a spot, but they still paid out everyone's spot.
They didn't just get people in. The next round, people.
No, because it was like he was like 30 minutes into his sets. Like the host went up, Seton Smith was hosting, then maybe one other comic, then Chappelle went right up. So it was early into the show,
Right.
and then he was just like, "Yeah, I'm having a party. Let's go." And I think only 3 people stayed in the crowd.
Wow.
Imagine being the people who decided not to go to Dave's party.
We want to see a show.
No, but Seller, you would expect if the whole crowd left.
Yeah.
And that's what, about an hour left in the
Yeah,
show?
I don't think because it was Thanksgiving. It was holiday. So it wasn't like it was the busiest day
Oh.
outside either. Like there was all that
Okay.
overdraft. It was the holiday.
Okay, that's crazy.
I
man.
always think about his wife on the other end of that, like waiting for Chappelle to get back for Thanksgiving dinner. and he
Right,
just
right.
shows up with 120
yeah,
strangers.
Yeah. But Chappelle is, I've been lucky to open for him a few times, and he's definitely like, he's I think he's the last American folk hero.
Yeah.
Because he does stuff like that. He'll just go from town to town. You hear these stories like
Yeah.
Chappelle's in town, or you hear stories that Chappelle was in town last week and he did 6 hours in San Francisco Punchline, and then you hear him like what you just told me, like that story you just told me.
It's like a myth. It's like
Yeah,
a
it's like a
mythology.
myth.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
like through a block party.
He's
for everyone,
larger
yeah.
than life.
Yeah.
The only
and-
other person is like that I've heard anything like that about is Bill Murray, and you don't know if any of the stories are true where he'll show up and like
Yeah.
drink someone's beer at a bar and be like,
Yeah,
no one will
yeah.
believe you.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
so true. It's like
It's the last American folk
Yeah,
hero. He
that's
goes
so-
from town to town telling stories.
Yeah.
He
Right.
did, I mean, that Radio City run is something of folklore too. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
20 shows in a row or whatever.
Yeah. Which is, for, yeah, he's very cool like that. Like I look at him and I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't always have to be this social media frenzy, this like constant pumping out of content. This like, there is
Well,
some
do you think
value
it's
in.
because he was Chappelle before this content creation happened?
I mean, I don't want to overanalyze Chappelle, but it definitely feels like his resurgence was bigger than the original.
Yeah, and
know what I mean?
there wasn't much social media behind it.
That's
so there
exact-
is
yeah, that's
truth.
it.
Like
It's-
his comeback was way bigger than the original run. I feel like his
Yeah.
original run was great, obviously Chappelle show, but I caught him when he was just making the comeback, because when he was just making a comeback, he performed at Montreal. That was like his big comeback.
Yeah, and what was this, like 5 years ago maybe?
Yeah, this was 2015. Yeah, so he was doing shows, stand-up comedy, but it would be the unannounced pop-up. It's Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle, blah, blah. And then his big comeback, I feel, was like Montreal in 2015 or 2014. Yeah, one of those. I think it was 2014. His big comeback was 2014, Just for Laughs, or was it 2013? He did these shows at Just for Laughs, and it was like 8 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Literally 3 shows a night. And I went for one of those because I was invited to Just for Laughs that year, and so I got to go see the show. And Chappelle, like the show starts at 12 a.m. The show starts actually at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
3 openers. Chappelle's on at like 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
and then he'll come on stage and and it's still popping.
yeah.
And on a Wednesday,
Ah,
and then
amazing.
that was when I meant, man, this is amazing. And then he came to Australia, and then I got to open for him in Australia, so that's when I got to meet him. So I was right when he was coming back. I'm like, man, this is like because I've never seen anything like this,
Yeah.
where it's no social media, no vehicle, no movie, no TV show at the time, but just pure touring, and it's a real event. And
yeah,
people
I
are
mean,
going
he
crazy.
brought himself back to this notoriety with just touring
Yeah.
and those specials. I mean, and
Yeah.
the prolificness of how many there were, and the 2 and 2 back to
Right.
back, 4
Yeah.
specials.
I can't get it out of my head though. The folklore thing is like 100% accurate because this guy, how do you even in this day and age not get put on social media?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got no phone, so it's like
Yeah.
he's one of the most famous comedians in the world, but
Yeah.
you're only hearing about him like a little bit like
Yeah.
through the grapevine until he does another special.
Yeah.
Like who
And-
can avoid the public eye that much?
Yeah, and he
Have you worked with him on the Resurgence when opening for him? Oh yeah, in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia, yeah. But I mean, I don't want to say like, I don't know what. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. Maybe his resurgence was before that. But for me, that felt like a true kind of. It's coming, man. It's
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
And
And there was so much excitement behind it.
Yeah.
How often does that
Even
happen
in
with the
Australia.
stand-up?
in Australia, where arguably I wouldn't have picked it to be that big in Australia, but it was crazy. He's selling
Yeah.
out convention centers in Australia. This was the first time around.
Jesus,
So-
convention
so-
centers.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
I don't know. I think we were just talking about Chappelle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, here's my question for you.
Yeah.
So you were practicing law and doing stand up at the same time?
No, I finished law school and I couldn't get a job,
Mm-hmm.
so I just did comedy instead.
Really?
So I didn't have to. I never had to pick. I guess I had to pick in the sense that I could have kept trying to look for a job, but instead I just kept doing comedy. I never had to quit a job to do comedy.
Did law ever actually interest you, or were you just kind of like, it's a practical job, it would pay well?
Yeah, it did interest me in that sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did interest me in that sense. But I wasn't a very good law student, so
Yeah.
it wasn't like I had to turn. Like no one knocking on the door to hire me.
Right.
So it was pretty easy to kind of cruise
Yeah.
instead of, guys who are super talented and they get their pick of the top firms.
Right.
That's hard to turn down, That's
Right.
guaranteed money. For me, it was like nobody really wanted me. I mean, I guess I could have found someone, but,
How'd your parents like the transition from lawyer to stand-up?
Yeah, they
Because I
did.
know you talked about strict parents in your stand-up.
Yeah, they didn't know. I didn't tell them.
No shit.
Yeah, because we were in separate countries. I was in Australia. They were in Singapore.
Oh,
We were in
fair.
separate countries. I just didn't tell them. I just kept doing comedy.
How long did you wait to tell them you were a stand-up?
I never told them. Yeah.
The Netflix
They
special.
still don't
was-
know.
Yeah,
They
still know. Yeah, they still know. I never told them. They started like reading news in Singapore.
No shit, so they found out on their own.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Yeah,
But it's kind of hard at that point for them to be upset because it's like he's look at how successful you know.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, they didn't quite get what was going on. Even when things were going quite well in Australia, they still didn't quite understand what is this? Is this a long-term thing?
How about now? Where do they stand on it?
Now I think that it's well past the point of
Yeah, because I mean, you've done so much.
Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of stuff they don't. They wouldn't understand. Like even the Daily Show, they didn't really know what that was.
Are they still in Singapore?
Yes, in Singapore. I mean, to be fair, after the Daily Show, they didn't know what it was, and then when I got the job, they like Googled and found out everything about it.
That's
Like the
fun.
salary of the host and everything. Yeah, all that stuff, yeah. And then they would tell
They
me
have
all this
access
stuff.
to
yeah.
things no one else
That's,
does.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
funny thought. Your parents in Singapore googling how much will my son make on the Daily
Yeah,
Show?
yeah. Like Googling the salary of Jon Stewart
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
How
So,
long have you been on the Daily Show now?
September 2015. So it's really flown by. It's
So I probably
almost-
met you right before that. I remember it was.
No, I only moved here for
oh,
that.
okay. So you were just doing it then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I met you right when I think I got past the cellar December 2015 or
Okay. I don't see my time at the cellar is such a dark space in my head that I don't remember really when it was.
Are you okay talking about it?
Yeah, I have no problem.
Because I met you, you were like, I think you were on medication or something, and
Yeah,
maybe
at that point, probably. Yeah, I was coming out of 2 bad car accidents.
Yeah, you
I
told
was
me
like,
about
my
that.
foot was busted.
Yeah.
I was just all over the place, and the opportunity presented itself.
and you were killing it on stage, man.
I was doing well. I was 2 years in, but I was able to fool people. I think with how long I was, and I looked older, and I worked.
Wait, you were
with-
only 2 years into comedy?
when I auditioned at the cellar, I was 2 years into stand-up.
That's crazy.
Which is my biggest regret of stand-up was accepting the audition. I wish I auditioned now because I'd still be in the club.
No, dude, don't.
No, I mean,
don't no.
in terms of like, I do wish it was I wish it presented itself a few years later. Obviously, no one says no to that coming up,
Yeah.
but I do wish it presented itself 2 years later, maybe, because if it happened right now, or now I'm 6 years in,
Yeah.
I'm so much more comfortable and better on stage that I would have
Fir-
stayed in the
First
club.
of all, my understanding is that they pass people for forever. Like she knows who you are. You know,
Oh yeah,
you might
like,
not
I
get
still
spots.
talk to her from now
Yeah,
and again.
and then second of all, I love the cellar. Cellar's great, but we can't make it the be all and end all of.
Oh no,
of comedy
I remember
as well,
once
so-
I'm hearing an interview with Aziz on Pete Holmes' podcast,
Yeah.
and Pete was talking. I actually listened to it before I auditioned at the cellar. It was very helpful for me
Yeah.
because Pete was asking me, he's like, "You were one of the youngest and the fastest to get in." He was like, "How did you do it?" And Aziz just goes to him. He's like, "Dude, it's a room full of people who want to laugh."
Yeah.
He goes, "How is that different than any other
Yeah.
room full of people who want to laugh?" And that normalized it for me.
Exactly.
I
You
mean,
know,
don't
we-
get me wrong; it was never normal. I was 22 and 2 years into stand up,
Yeah.
and
I can't
absolutely
believe that.
scared when I was
No,
there.
you were like a real veteran pro when you're doing it. But you definitely off stage. You definitely seemed like you were like a little out of it.
Oh,
like,
I
on
was
medication.
off stage. I wasn't there
Yeah.
yet.
But only compared to now, because I had
oh,
nothing to compare it to. But
no,
now you
it's
seem so much
100%
happier. And,
accurate.
yeah.
The happiness is the big thing. I wasn't happy at that point.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a weight thing or just it was a lot of pressure for me. I put myself in a lot of pressure.
Well, you're fucking
situations.
sleeping in storage rooms and the bus authority. You
Right.
can't- yeah.
I was selling tickets in Times Square
It's
will
the-
bring out the worst in anyone.
Oh, no, dude.
You wanna feel the but like I've been after the second car accident, I took myself off. Not that you're supposed to, but I took myself off antidepressants. I've been off them ever since.
Oh, good
It's
for
been
you,
the
man.
happiest years of my life. But that's
Yeah.
because I got put in a situation where I had to face something like death.
Yeah, you can't put a value on any of these things because it's like who's to say that if you hadn't gotten into the cellar and then not got booked there anymore that you'd be exactly where you are now.
Oh, it
It all
made
got
me-
you to where you are, and you're the
even
happiest
the time
I've
I
seen
spent
you.
there was it makes you so much stronger, that club. I mean,
Sure.
and I tell people, they're like, was it having to follow the big names? And I was like, that wasn't what, I mean, the cracks in my armor were shown from having to follow beasts like Adrian Appalucci every night, who's done Letterman, 10 plus year veteran, 15 year, and like following people who are just that good and not famous was more difficult for me.
Sure. But I'm not just saying this. I will watch you go on and you always killed it. And it was never
Thank
like
you. Yeah, it's one of those situations like I don't really fully know what happened there. I just know I worked there one Christmas. I did 3 spots, and I was never there again after that.
Right.
And I never for a year it got to me, and then it was like, oh, if life is fine.
Yeah.
Comedy's still going fine. I
Yeah.
still get laughs. Like you become a worse comic.
Yeah, exactly.
You
you
just
get
find
better at it.
new goals to work towards.
Yeah.
Do you find that like even after you've had all the success, like do you still get hecklers, or is it a lot, crowds are a lot more like, oh, I want to hear what he has to say? Or,
There's a little bit of I want to hear what he has to say. Also, it's nicer that, I play, in New York, there's shows and then there's shows.
right.
So you play better shows and people are generally more well-behaved and stuff like that. Not like these crazy jungle shows where it's like, what the fuck, like people could jump on stage and punch you in the face, like that kind of show. So the shows that I get to do, I'm very lucky that, the people that they attract are a little bit better. The clubs are, they'll throw people out if they're being dicks.
Right.
So that, and also the other aspect is my whole goal career-wise was to do your own theater shows.
Yeah.
And when you do your own theater show, the dynamic changes immediately because
Yeah.
the theater show is like an event. It's people paid money to see you,
Mhm.
so they're invested. Everyone there's invested. You don't have to prove yourself to them insofar as who you are. Like they'll give you the time of day. And so because of that, I see less and less hecklers.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get them.
You are genuinely a theater comic. And I say that like when I watched your special, like some people do their specials in theaters, you're like, this might been better in a club. Like everything about your performance up there is that big and grand. It is an
thanks,
event.
man. Oh, thanks,
Especially
man,
the way you I wonder if it's part of like, because I feel like international comics, Australia too, a lot of arc in the show.
Yeah.
The show has
Yes.
meaning from start to finish.
Yes.
And your special is very much like that.
Yeah.
That's not as big with American comics, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So in Australia, we go by the comedy festival format and cycle. So the comedy festival is basically the one that started was the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
Right.
Then Australia kind of copied that format, and so it's everyone does a 1-hour show every year. And to do a 1-hour festival show, no openers, no.
I remember you
It's-
telling me that. I love that
yeah.
idea, no openers.
Yeah, no openers. Just you come on stage, and people paid $10 to see you for 1 hour. Okay, go. And then you have to kind of tell, you can do jokes, but most of the time what happens is that it's easier to tell like longer stories by yourself.
Yeah.
So people will use that as like a theme to talk about. So that's where you get like Nanette.
Yep.
Nanette's kind of born out of that.
A lot of
style.
UK comics do that.
UK
James
comics.
Acaster does it
Acaster
so
does
well.
that, yeah,
He
so-
put out 4 specials on Netflix with
Yeah.
all the same arc, undercover detective.
Yeah. So that kind of style is very British and therefore Australian, and that's
Yeah.
how we do it. I was always known I lean more towards the American style in that I was more like jokey than theme based, but I'm definitely influenced by that theme based to tell like when you do a 1-hour show, you have like a story arc in it,
Yep, and the way
Yeah.
you close out the special, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's perfect with how he brought up New York at first.
Right.
It was, and even like the way you move up there, it's a theater movement,
Sure, yeah.
which I don't think I'd ever be able to do.
Yeah, you'll be
I
surprised.
like sitting on a stool and
Yeah.
crowd working people.
I
Yeah.
feel like once you have the space, you kind of get adjusted to using
Yeah,
it, right?
you fill the space a little bit.
Well, I mean, you said within 3 years you were doing theaters in Australia, so
Yeah.
it's like you've had the time on there. You've put in the time on stage.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I remember Colin Quinn at his at Just for Laughs. They give a keynote every year. Someone gives a state of the industry, which is Andy Kindler does it every year.
Yeah.
And then someone does a keynote, and they pick like a veteran comic to do it. And one in 2014 or 2013, Colin Quinn did it, and he was saying how like he was kind of giving shit and advice to everybody: agents, managers, comics, features, openers, headliners. It was really
Yeah.
funny and really meaningful. And one of the advice he gave to comics was like, don't be afraid to perform the joke. Like everyone's always like scared to perform the joke, like
Yeah.
as though because as comics we respect good writing.
Yeah, for some reason there's negativity towards act outs.
Yeah.
Why?
And the idea is that if you had to act out to be funny, that means it wasn't a good written joke. But he was just saying like, just perform it. Like, don't be scared to perform it.
Yeah.
Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with performing a joke that? So I mean, I can't say that that's what inspired me to perform jokes, but I always think about that. Like, oh yeah, like yeah, just perform a joke if you can. I mean,
Coming up in Australia, who was like comics you looked up towards? Was it American comics?
Yeah, American comics. Yeah,
Yeah.
all my comedy heroes were American comics. But I got to obviously get into the Australian comedy scene and like meet all these incredibly talented headliners, in their own right. They're just unbelievably talented people. And I don't know, man. We hold. I mean, all comics we kind of admire and learn something from, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Like we don't.
There is a genuine attraction from comic to comic, I think.
Yeah.
In conversation, like you could take it to places that other people might not understand.
Yeah.
Things you could talk about being up there.
Like I love how this guy does this.
Yeah.
Or I wish I could do this. I wish I could have the impressions that this guy has. I wish I could. Like everyone's game, you're like, fuck, I wish I could have that in my game,
Especially when you see them live. Like you may not think a comedian's for you, but if someone's big, like big enough, and you see them live, and you just see how they can control a room, like I've never seen someone like a big name comedian live and not taken away something like, wow, they fucking nailed that.
Exactly. I remember watching Jim Jeffries' HBO special.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, man, this guy's really good, And I watched him live, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Now I really see what this is about. Like him live is unbelievable.
My
Totally
first live
different
show
game,
was
yeah.
Dave Attell at the Stress Factory in Jersey, which is the ultimate Dave Attell venue.
Yeah.
And watching him live was insane.
Yeah, him live is crazy.
Someone had him autograph a dildo on stage.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
comedy, rock stars.
Well,
Even-
when Dan headlined Gotham, he had 2 drop-ins before he went up, which
Seinfeld and Gaffigan.
Seinfeld and
that's funny.
Gaffigan.
I had to do an hour after Seinfeld and 45 and a Q&A on my headline show.
That's really funny.
And it's like I've been a fan of Seinfeld my whole life. I
Yeah.
love the show, you
Yeah.
know. But when you see him live, you're like, oh, I really get it now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
this guy has.
I didn't get
people
him until
want-
I saw it live.
Yeah.
This guy's got people hanging on every
Yes.
syllable.
Yes.
You know.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like you watch Seinfeld in the sitcom, his stand-up bits, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then you watch him live, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like I went to watch him at Beacon
Yeah.
2 years ago, because I think he's still. I don't want.
I think he
it's
still
it's
does the
funny.
Beacon,
The
yeah.
only guy who was spruiking on this podcast is fucking Seinfeld, the last guy who needs a spruik. But he's performing at the Beacon this year again. You go watch him live, you're like, oh my god, this guy live is he is amazing.
Yeah.
He did
Every word's
15 minutes
accounted for.
on the infomercial Flex Seal.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
And that's when I was like, okay, so I get it completely. Like, there's
Yeah.
sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, the show's one of my favorite
Exactly.
things. I was never into this. I watched him do the 45 before I had to go up after him.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yes.
He commanded this in a way no one else. He got a
Yes.
standing ovation from my crowd going up
Yes.
and leaving the stage.
Clean, all clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
all clean.
Also, all wearing like a.
And he took my green room, in case you hear this, Jerry. He stole my green room.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
Imagine
He-
crushing that hard wearing Air Monarchs and like bad
Damn, Mon-
jeans.
did he say hi to you at least? Did he go like, oh hey man?
So, yes, but I had to work for it. And I say that in, I'm very lucky to where I could name drop with him. Like, one of my close friends is the first baseman of the Mets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was trying to really be friends with Pete.
Right.
So I was like, hey, by the way, this is my show. And Pete's one of my best friends. He's like, oh, let's go talk. And
Oh,
like,
that's
he took
great,
me
that's
aside. We
great,
got to
that's
talk a
great,
little.
yeah.
And like, Pete hangs out with Jerry now.
Yeah.
So like, he tells him about me. So like, he knows a little
Right,
bit.
right.
But
That's
as a
cool.
comic, although I had to follow him last week at Gotham,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get 5 minutes for a late night set. And it was my final run through of the set to get it.
Yeah.
And he dropped in and did 35 in a Q&A, and I had to run it right after him.
Right.
And it was so nice. The host, Marion Groden, still brought me up with credits.
Right.
And I was like, all you needed to say was this next comic is not Jerry Seinfeld. And I heard him laugh at that, and I was like, all right, it's going to be a fun set.
Yeah.
We're good.
He gets it though. I think he gets it. I've met him very very briefly once, so I can't even say like.
He's the epitome of not wanting to talk after a
yeah.
set.
So I get that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
You don't have to be positive. Just don't be negative. And I get it. You know, he's probably got a million people trying to
Oh
ask
my
him
God,
for
it's
something.
insane. The
Yeah.
coolest thing that I saw with him was that night at the show.
Yeah.
So Gaffigan drops in and does 15.
Yeah.
Jerry does 45. Then my feature still has to
Yeah.
go up than me. But I'm watching Jerry up there, and Gaffigan sitting at the table with me, taking notes on Jerry's set.
Oh
And he
yeah.
writes a few tags, and he shows me. He's like, what do you think about these tags? I'm like, oh, those are good. So then immediately after Jerry gets off stage, he pulls Jim, and they went downstairs and started writing
And
together.
what? Yeah.
And that's when in my head, that was so amazing for me to see, because I was like, it never stops.
Yes, it never stops.
They are both,
Yeah.
theater arena comics, and they're just still
You know,
getting
Hall
after
of Fame.
it, writing bits.
Yeah.
Literally,
First ballot Hall of Fame comics.
Jerry's
in-
probably the Mount Rushmore,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
What? Sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying. Like I watched Jerry Seinfeld Comedian. Remember that comedian?
Yeah,
Everyone
of
watched
course.
that. Dude, every year I watch that, I get something new out of it.
Yeah,
Man.
it's,
Every year I watch
it's
it.
amazing to rewatch.
Yeah, you rewatch it and you're like, damn, I got like last time I watched it, I remember being reminded that because Seinfeld, he's at Long Island in the comedian. He's in Long Island, some comedy club.
Probably,
and
yeah.
backstage, he's like, "How big do you have to be before these people fucking listen?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it never stops."
Yeah.
Even peak prime Seinfeld was having trouble with hecklers in his goddamn show. I'm like, oh yeah. So like
that is such a great documentary.
yeah, like every time I watch it, I get something new
I
out
love
of
running
it.
into Orny Adams just because it's like,
Yeah.
we in a documentary right now?
Yeah.
I've seen that guy. I've seen that guy have one of the strongest sets I've ever seen at the Cellar.
Sure.
To where like I felt like the tables upstairs might have been shaking at how
Right.
hard he was killing.
Yeah, I've only seen him kill Oni. I know him a little bit. I think we're on first name basis, but
Did you ever
it-
watch his Conan from like 2 or 3 years ago?
No.
He ends up doing like 7.5 minutes, and he throws the mic stand at a point, and he ends the set like sitting in front of Conan's desk like this, just defeated.
Yeah.
It's one of the most amazing sets because it goes well, but there's some that doesn't, and he's just like this at the end of the
There's
set.
never
like,
been a
"I'm
guy
done."
who takes it more personally. It seems like like everything.
Right.
But the thing with getting to see like Seinfeld and Gaffigan and seeing them at a club
Yeah.
is like, it's like, oh, that's where like, because a theater is awesome and there's so many
Yes.
cool things about it, but the intimacy of the club is
Yes.
like, you can see like everything comes out of them. You know?
Gaffigan in the club's my favorite. That dude is just too good.
He was
Yeah.
so fucking awesome.
Yeah. Those
That was
two
so
guys-
nerve-wracking because I'd never headlined Gotham before. They were like, "You want to do a Wednesday?" I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, what could happen on a Wednesday?"
Yeah.
And then them two show up.
Yeah.
Like Jesus
But
Christ,
Jerry
we'll be
asked,
dropping
I'll give
in.
him that. Jerry asked the club to email me that morning and ask if it was okay,
Oh,
which was
that's
very
cool.
nice. Like anything I said would matter. What are you gonna
Right.
say no to him?
Right.
And
That's
they
very
were
nice.
like, they were like, "Are you okay moving out of the green room for him so he could have it?" I was like, Chris, what am I gonna say to you?
Yeah.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't okay with it, I'm
Yeah.
still gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna say I'm sitting here anyway.
Yeah, and that's why like I feel with Seinfeld, like he's one of those guys. It's very hard to understand for anybody that kind of name brand recognition.
Yeah.
He's on the Michael Jordan level of
Oh yeah.
name brand recognition, and like if you really try to think about what that means, it's like anywhere he goes, people are like,
Yeah.
everybody recognizes.
Does
like,
that worry you? Because you are on a projections where that can be. I mean,
I
my
do.
dad, who's really doesn't know much about stand-up, I woke up and he's watching your special. He knows you.
I mean,
he's a fan.
if I always feel like if you're doing comedy for fame or money, you're never gonna be famous enough.
No, what I
and
mean,
never-
does it ever worry you that you might be a person who gets stopped on the street at times? It doesn't seem like fun.
I mean, if that happens, I mean, on the plus side, it means if I do shows, I probably can sell some tickets. So
Oh, yeah.
I'll be, I think the plus minus, but
Because you were in
yeah,
Crazy Rich. I mean, that was a major successful movie, and that was a big deal.
yeah, but
Was that your first movie?
Yeah, it's my first movie, and it's a small role in it, and so it was interesting to see how that game was played. Like everyone on the cast got along really well, but it was interesting to see how the business side of that works, like the publicity side, and how to like for us, we're like trying to translate it into ticket sales for comedy.
Yeah.
So I was like interested in how that would translate into ticket sales, and it moved
Did it?
some.
It did.
I think it moved some. It definitely helped me, get. I had some good sellouts last year before the special drop, and some markets I couldn't sell a single ticket. So, Florida I couldn't sell 10 tickets.
Florida's tough as shit.
Yeah,
to sell.
and then Seattle you can sell out, and then Portland couldn't sell anything, and then
Interesting.
San Francisco sell out.
It
and
is
then,
interesting. Yeah. Wow.
And then New Orleans can't sell. Boston sells out.
New Orleans
you
is a tough comedy city to go to as a headliner.
So it's just interesting to see how, because the movie thing just helps you get a crowd for your stand-up,
Yeah.
right? So that's
And I'm
really
sure
what,
the Netflix special is probably going to move a ton of tickets for you because it got pretty popular.
Yeah, I think it moved the needle a little bit. It's hard to say, but I mean, I had one show on sale since the special dropped, and it sold in Vancouver. It sold out. So
That's awesome.
I'm about to announce a national tour, so hopefully that will. I
Awesome.
feel like the real proof of the pudding is in ticket sales, right? That's the real metric.
Yeah.
Everything else is like whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
followers
I mean,
don't really
'cause-
mean
Yeah.
much. The actual
Ticket
conversion.
sales.
But
Yeah,
it's
who
got to
cares
be,
what your numbers
regardless of if your number increases. I mean, it's got to feel nice that even without having a Netflix special or without Crazy Rich Asians, you were already selling out theaters. You know what I mean? So like just completely on your own.
Yeah, in Australia, yeah. But in Australia, it's an interesting market. Like I said, we have a comedy festival cycle, so there's infrastructure in Australia to sell live shows with no TV credits.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my generation of guys, we couldn't get on TV at all. They wouldn't give us a spot, and there were no spots first of all. And then the few spots there were, like, we weren't suitable for it. To be quite honest, they didn't want like a black Australian dude or a Asian guy from Asia on network TV. Like they just
Really?
there's no room for us. We can't host the show. We can't, our voice isn't the right voice. So
I feel like UK is the same comic where I know of a lot of UK comics who
Panel.
sold out theaters before
Yeah.
credits.
yeah, so
And
my
that
point-
doesn't exist here.
Yeah, so my point is in Australia and the UK, you can just do live and do theaters and move up to theaters. I mean, it's hard, but there's a pathway. There's an established infrastructure. In America, it's like you can't really maybe you can go do clubs, but then it's like
And even that's tough. Your
Even
path
that's
is
tough.
content now, which is so disgusting.
Yeah. So my it's interesting. Canada's even worse. I can't believe Canada has no touring infrastructure. Like there's no pathway. In Australia, you could do with no TV. You could do 50 seater for a month, every day for a month. That's the comedy festival. It's 30 days long. Every day you do a 1 hour show. 50 seater. Let's say you sell, some days you sell 10, some days you sell 30, some days you sell out on weekends, but let's say your average is 35 people every day. Then if the show went well, the next year you could come back and do 150 seater and maybe double your numbers to your average is 70.
Are you
Whatever
bringing a
it is.
new hour the next year?
Yeah, a new hour next year. Yeah. So there was a way to do that, and if you were good at your job, if you worked hard, you could play that pathway.
Yeah.
But here it's like TV or nothing.
Yeah.
TV or bust. Movie credit or bust.
Yeah.
Pure
And, like,
touring.
I tried doing the opposite. I tried touring. I do like punk
Yeah.
rock tours every year where I just
Yeah.
put together a 28 city
Cal
run
Kinane
on
style.
my own.
Yeah, Cal Kinane
Yeah.
style. Yeah.
And it's tough,
Yeah.
because I have no following really
Yeah, yeah.
whatsoever. But I get to see like where I could sell out,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
you get this, and then there are some places where I can't move anything.
Yeah.
Florida, I can't move shit.
So Apana,
Yeah,
Apana,
Apana.
super funny. She had to cancel her tour because she got a TV thing, and so I told my agent like, "Yo, everything she canceled, let's just pick it up,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of shit I want. I want to do the rock venue stuff."
Oh, the rock
A-
venues are so
yeah,
great, man.
and I did it, and it was hard, man. It was hard to
Yeah.
sell. Some
Yeah.
some venues like
It's hard doing rock venues because I've learned. Well, the reason I started doing rock venues is because it was hard for me without credits. I was like, I would
To
go
get
to
a
clubs
club,
and be
yeah.
like, listen, I'm gonna bring an audience. I know I'll have this many.
Yeah.
I know I'll do well with your pumping.
Yeah.
We could get it full, but with a rock venue, you're responsible for the whole crowd.
Right.
I mean, there's no one just walking into a punk rock venue in Philly to see stand up.
Yeah.
Right.
They're coming there for whoever is on stage.
Exactly.
Which I like because it lets me know where I stand in a lot of places.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
also is really humbling.
Yeah, and you can do your own venue. I mean, I think the name of the game, which in America we kind of miss. This isn't really a goal for some reason, or maybe it is, but it's hard. But I feel like the goal for live performers is we have our own venue, we go do it, people pay to see us, and it's control. Whether it's
Yeah.
200 seats or 500 seats or 1,000 seats,
That's all I want. I just
yeah.
want my audience to be there when I
Yeah.
show up to perform for them.
Yeah,
And that
and-
goal is really not
Yeah.
attained by a lot of people here, or even chased, I think.
Yeah, and because the numbers don't make sense, because if you're going to do a 200 seat rock venue, the club will be like, we'll pay you the same amount guaranteed.
Mhm.
Then you're like, okay, fuck it, I'll just do a club because that's guaranteed money.
Yep.
And so it starts in America. It's like hard to build your own tour because the incentives aren't there to do it, and then by the time you can do it, you don't have problems anyway.
Oh yeah,
know what I
I've
mean?
lost. This last tour that I did after 6 years, I've done about 4 of these punk rock type tours.
Yeah.
Was the first one where I didn't lose money.
Right.
Just because putting
Yeah.
yourself on the road for
Yeah.
4 weeks in a row in a car is tough.
But also in America, comics don't invest in themselves like that because
No.
I'm gonna break even or lose money on my first 2 years of touring just so that by my 4th year I can be in control of my own
Mhm.
thing. People don't think like that here.
No, and I mean,
it's hard.
I could have
Yeah.
done better along the way, but it's fun to see. Like, you get to see the groundwork. You get to see the people who come back year after
Yeah.
year. You're like, okay, so it's growing here. It needs
Yeah.
work here. There's something fun about just finding out. Okay, here's the work I put in. Here's the work I need to continue to put in.
Yeah.
So many people miss the point about like we still got to put in this work.
Yeah.
You have to find out where you got to put it in.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I should talk to All Things Comedy about that. They should start touring comics in rock venue tours like Cal Kinane style.
They should. I
Yeah.
mean, Stanhope really did that for some. There were venues that I was doing when I was 21 that Stanhope would be there the next week, still
Exactly.
doing the venue.
Exactly.
He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He knows that people are going to be
Yeah.
there. He's going to make his money.
Kinane, Stanhope.
There's a
some
guy
other
named
guys.
JT Haberstadt who I used. He's not a big comic, but he runs something called the Altercation Comedy Festival.
Uh-huh.
He was the guy who really inspired me because he would just do nothing but punk rock venues.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this because I know when we have friends like New York comedians who will get the Fringe Festival, they'll go out there and they'll do an hour a night for 30 nights, and then they come home and they're depressed because they're doing 5 minutes.
Yeah.
How did you feel the transition was from coming from Australia, doing mainly theaters and
No, I could have gone either way, but it could have been because I was essentially starting from scratch in America, in New York, and it could have been demoralizing or creatively invigorating. And I'm very glad that it was completely creatively invigorating.
Yeah.
I didn't feel because first of all, I don't have an ego with this shit. Like I don't feel like I deserve to only perform in theaters.
Right.
And I was really excited to join the New York comedy scene, because this is the best city for comedy. There's so many live shows every night. All my favorite comics come from here. So when I was doing it, what would happen is it was fun to go on stage. Nobody knew who I was, and I just had to freaking prove myself.
Yeah.
And I think that made me a better comic. And doing short sets and making sure they were punchy, not these long stories of to people who don't care who you are.
Right.
Which
That is pretty
there's-
incredible. You're famous in Australia or well known in Australia, and then you come here and you're just the guy on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's- mentally that's got to be something for you.
No, I never consider myself anyone in Australia anyway, so I didn't really care. And to be clear, it's not like I wasn't the Trevor Noah of Australia. I'm like, the best analogy was I was kind of like a Hannibal Buress of Australia in that I didn't have a TV show.
You brought down a famous former
I
comic.
brought down a pedophile.
You
and,
handled
rapist,
Cosby in Australia.
yeah, Australian Cosby. And I was doing theater shows with no vehicle.
Yeah.
So people knew who I was from live stuff only. So I wasn't like a huge
Yeah.
name or anything. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but if you're a fan of comedy and you're a fan of like stand up and listening to other comedians talk about it, like if I have a rough night in comedy, part of me in the back of my head is like, hey, at least you're really fucking doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're really in this. Like this is part of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if it's not going well, you're like, this is gonna be a great story one day. You know?
I know that cancer benefit the other day took a lot out of me,
Oh, yeah,
dude.
Dan had a horrible cancer benefit. He did.
I got hired. I mean, a family friend of mine, their son lost his leg to cancer.
Yeah, that's already.
And I was like, let's do a
Lose-lose.
fundraiser for him, just being nice. And
Yeah.
it worked out well. They raised a ton of money, but
Yeah.
they had me performing it, and they had the kid open it.
yeah, I see now.
And he crushed, dude.
Oh, he crushed it?
Oh, he
great.
was getting laughs, tears. He was doing because he was up there with his missing leg, just nailing it. Then they brought in a motivational speaker. They brought in parents of a girl who died, and they're like, let's put the stand-ups up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
This was the worst because for months you were like, I'm dreading this, and I'm like, it's gonna be fine. But in
Yeah,
the
it's
back
bad.
of my
The
head, I'm
worst
like,
part
it's not
about it
gonna
was
be
they
fine.
I had brought my friend Riley to open for me, and they gave us seats at a table. So we had to go from just eating it and then sit right
Yeah,
amongst
see,
the
that's the
people.
worst.
And I told her, I said, listen, Riley, we're not doing this. I said, sit down for a second, but we're out.
Right.
And we just we
Yeah.
just left.
Yeah,
It
good
was-
for you.
You can't follow. One, you can't really perform at a cancer benefit.
Yeah.
It's really tough. But when the actual kid is there,
Yeah.
what are you going to follow after?
yeah.
One guy, I said this on the last episode, but one guy literally came up to me after the show, and he patted me on the back, and he goes, I bet you wish you had the cancer tonight.
Wow.
The worst thing ever said to me after a show, but so funny.
Did you get paid for it?
It was out of the kindness of my heart.
Yeah, see, then that's the thing. Like, money, sometimes the money isn't enough anyway, but.
There would have been no price for that I would have accepted. It would
Right.
have been too hard either way.
Right, but the point is like, my point is like, there's a lot of times when this goes back to what we were talking about lay people who don't understand comedy, and trying to explain to them like, listen, you don't want me to do comedy at your wedding.
Yep.
You're gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate it. Everyone's gonna hate this.
Yeah.
Why are we doing
And they
something?
don't trust you until it's happening.
Yeah.
Until you're eating a dick at their wedding.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I get what he meant. We're all having a bad time.
It's like, and I'm here to celebrate you guys. Why am I gonna make this about me?
Right,
You know?
right. And so many a time I've done, there's some corporates where the money's just too high where you're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to eat a dick for money now.
Yeah.
But sometimes when it's just on that edge, you're like,
Yeah.
you don't want this. Trust me, you don't want me in a boardroom under fluorescent lights with no microphone trying to do stand-up.
We were in
Yeah.
the middle of a dance floor, no tables near us, no stage, just like one of these where you just have to keep turning and making sure you're bombing with everybody.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, you're not laughing. You have to do the whole.
Nah,
Okay,
you're
no
like,
one's laughing.
this is the same
360
setup as
degrees of bombing. Yeah.
I felt worse for Riley, the girl that I brought to open for me. Her assistant principal somehow was in the crowd, so
Yeah,
she had to
'cause it
do
was
that.
South
He was
Jersey,
actually
right?
a nice guy, though.
Yeah.
He stood up at one point, the assistant principal, during my set, turned to everyone and said, "Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up!"
Yeah.
And no one listened.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when I knew it was just gonna be
Yeah.
awful.
So I've had that stuff before. And it's always like I get a lot of like Asian charities asking me to perform,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you really don't want me to perform, man. It's bad for everybody. I'm gonna look bad. People are gonna like it. Everyone's gonna think everyone's gonna think I suck.
Yeah.
And probably I do suck. I wish I was better at comedy that I could fucking get you guys to laugh. But also like no one's gonna have a good time. You guys are gonna hate what I'm saying. Nothing's gonna work. You guys don't understand this, and then literally that stuff happens where the organizers, they're like, everybody keep quiet. He's trying to perform, and it's like, this vibe is already off. Like people don't understand vibe. You know what I mean?
There's so much that has to happen for stand up to go right.
Yeah. And it's like, and if you're like in the back of your head are like, well, this is a charity event, so I can't go 110% with my normal routine and my attitude because I don't want people to think I'm mean. Then it's like, then you're in your own head.
Exactly.
And, it's stupid.
Yeah, this one got bad. I literally said in the microphone, "Fuck all of you people." I was told not to curse. We were in a synagogue.
Does that
I literally said, "You all suck. I hate you." And it was at a benefit, so I shouldn't have said that. But
yeah, I mean that because when you say all of you, that means you're
I only had to
including
do
the
20
kid
minutes.
with cancer.
I only had to do 20 minutes. I didn't even make it to that. 17.
Yeah, see, you can't. So the one which I kind of survived recently was I did a corporate for this other company in Las Vegas, and it was same deal. It's their award ceremony, so we're the last thing of the evening, so everyone's already mingling and eating and drinking and whatever. And the only saving grace was that the organizer had the foresight to be like, everyone just do 10. So we had like 4 people. We were all probably getting paid a lot, and then it would be like, come on, do 10. So you can bomb for 10. You know what I mean? Like 10, you can bomb for 10. Get
bombing
off.
for 10 and knowing there's a sweet paycheck at the end is almost fun.
It's almost fun. And then also, if you're following someone who bombed, and even then it's fine. You know what I mean? Like that guy's bombing. Okay, I'm gonna go and bomb for 10 and get off. You know what I mean? Like 10 minutes of corporate bombing is.
It's a beautiful
Everyone
thing.
can do it.
Yep.
15 is okay. Then 20 is when it starts to become like, okay, this is too much
20 is really
bombing.
a lengthy bomb.
I don't understand these places that continue to do the same event every year where it's like the comedian struggles. You know what I mean? It's like, why do you guys keep having us back?
I've had a college college book me after they told me, they're like, the past 2 years we've had to fire the comic. I'm like, then why are you doing it again?
Right. It's like, I don't continue to touch the stove and burn my hand and wonder why it's burning. You know what I mean? Like, this is just not the place.
It's so funny. You're right. Every year, the places you go that people bomb every year and they still do it. Like,
yeah.
Well, it's also a waste of money because it's like, these people don't enjoy the comedy. Yeah. So why are you even spending it?
The audience is literally programmed on a yearly basis to not laugh at who's up there.
Isn't it funny if the people who organize it literally think that that's how comedy is supposed to be? It's like, oh yeah, that's what comedy is. People come on top.
They come to the cellar and they're like, why are people laughing?
Yeah, they're like,
why is no one handing out awards right now?
Why isn't anyone standing up and yelling, shut the fuck up?
And then that's how heckling is born. That's exactly what it is.
It was first heckling the crowd. Yeah. And then it became, the crowd's already quiet. I'm going to heckle the guy.
Really, so many interesting scenario stand-up puts you in. Like, I've done stand-up in a strip club before. The only time I've been in a strip club, I've been in 2 strip clubs. One to do a podcast, one to do stand-up.
What's the worst place you've ever had to do it? Was it a corporate or was it?
I've done a few bad gigs, obviously, as we all have. One that comes to mind is when some guy at McDonald's asked me to do a gig but it was a corporate, but it was in a fucking, like, it's hard to explain, but you know that giant Ferris wheel that every city has?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
London has one. Melbourne has one giant wheel. Right. So in the bottom of the wheel, there's like a reception area.
Oh, no.
Like just completely empty room that's kind of corporate-y, fluorescent lights. And then he's like, oh yeah, so come and do a gig. And he didn't... He said it was for about 80 people. It's like the executive McDonald's or Melbourne executive people, because he came to watch my show and he really liked my show, my 1 hour show at the comedy festival. So he's like, I want to hire Ronny, 10 grand, lot of money, come and do it. Was it 20 minutes or 30 minutes?
Right.
And so my agent is a pretty good agent. They're better at this in America, but basically the agent's job in America is to make sure that they don't put you in a fucking situation where there's no microphone and it's not set up for comedy. Yeah. So they said, yeah, there's a PA. There'll be a PA system. Don't worry. So I get there. Obviously, there's no PA system. Yep. The person, the manager of the venue, she's like frantic. She's like, we can't get the PA to work. And the guy the tech it's Saturday, so he's not working. Is that okay? And I tell her like, it's actually not okay,
Yeah.
but there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And they keep trying to get me to say it's gonna be okay, but I'm like, it's not gonna be
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do it, but you're gonna see how not okay it's gonna be.
This is a suicide mission.
So yeah, I mean, and then I'm like, all right, we're just gonna eat shit for 30 minutes here. So I go there, literally no stage. So imagine you're standing in the middle
No
of the
stage,
room,
no microphone.
no stage, no microphone, fluorescent lights, like maybe 50 people.
So it looks like a rally more than
Yeah,
anything.
and people are standing. They're not like sitting down. And
Oh,
then you
no.
just, hey everybody, okay, so supposed to do 30 minutes here. There's no PA. People don't seem to understand that
standing.
comedy. Yeah, just doing it. And you know what? Like it actually went okay because I was talking to them and doing bits and then talking to them, and like the whole joke was like, okay, count down to 30, then I get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. And so that was the running joke of like, all right, 5 more minutes, so 15 more minutes, and I do bits, and so like it actually, experience wise, it wasn't the worst, but just the
Setting.
conditions wise, it was like, this
Yeah.
is
It's it's like the simplest art form. It's like
Yeah.
I need like two things.
Yeah.
I need a microphone and I need just to be a little bit higher than everyone. Like if you
Yeah.
guys if you don't have a stage, just give me a pair of heels. You know what I mean?
Right. And the guy who organized it like couldn't understand classic, does not understand why this wouldn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
So in his head, he's like, "What's wrong? Just do it. Like
Yeah,
it's fine."
you're funny. You're funny. It's like it's not
fine.
the same.
You're
One time
like-
a guy hired me to do
Yeah.
his backyard party. Like he
Yeah.
does a big party every year. He's like, I need a comic. So I said, sure, just have a stage.
Yeah.
So I get there and I step 1 foot on the stage and it's so flimsy. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? This doesn't feel like a stage. I'm maybe 2 minutes in and I step and my foot goes right through. And the curtain that's like, he has like a little tabletop, like a, what do you call it? Like a
Yeah, I know.
tablecloth
Yeah,
on
right.
top of the stage. I pull it off. He had me standing on a cornhole board, like where you throw the beanbags in. So I just stepped directly in a hole. So the stage just had a hole right in the middle.
didn't even
of
Almost
it.
plug
snapped
up.
your ankle.
Yeah,
in a
literally
fucking-
just went right through the
Yeah,
hole,
yeah.
and I was like, "What the fuck?"
But
Yeah.
but at the same time, if you go down with a broken ankle, they're like, man, this guy's got great act
Yeah,
outs. You know?
yeah.
There was a pool at the guy's house, and there was a DJ, and the DJ kept going in the microphone. If the comics suck, we're gonna kick them in the pool. And you're like, just what I want to be brought up on stage.
Right. Yeah, see, that's horrible.
All right, so let's. Have you ever been fired from a job?
No.
Well,
There we go.
there goes
That's
the
our
big close.
question.
That's what we close on is the firing story. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't work many jobs, right?
I actually worked in a grocery store, Asian grocery store, when I was doing comedy in Melbourne.
Oh,
I
no
worked
shit.
there for I worked at a grocery store downstairs from my house for about a month or
And-
maybe a few months. Yeah,
And
it's like this. It's very much like this.
what'd you do? Just
I
cashier?
was cashier and stocking shelves.
Nice.
And yeah.
there's something
and-
therapeutic about stocking shelves.
Yeah, it was, and I found out how to use the point of sale system to log into
Yeah.
a chat room, and I would chat on the point of sale system. Yeah, it was fun, man. Yeah, and the guy who ran.
Have
it
you
was
had a
cool.
job? You haven't had a job since you've been here, because I mean, the Daily Show's obviously
Yeah,
a
Daily
job,
Show's the
but-
job. Yeah, the Daily Show's the
I
job.
mean, that's 5 days a week, right?
Yeah. It's a full-time job, and I think it's the best job in comedy.
You travel for it?
Yeah.
for
Do
the
field
pieces?
pieces. Do field pieces. Yeah, but never been fired. I'm trying to think if I've ever been fired. No.
What's been your favorite field piece? We'll do that.
I quit from
instead.
I used to busk at I was a bus boy at a nightclub. I quit that job. So that's
in
not-
Australia.
Yeah, no, in Australia.
Was it like a glorious quitting, or were you just like, I'm done here?
He danced out.
Was not glorious, and I just said I'm done. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm done. Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah. Ugh.
Well, I have no more firing questions then.
Yeah.
No, that's it. That's
Yeah.
all I
Ronnie,
got.
anything you want to plug?
No. Well, watch my Netflix special if you can.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely do. I rewatched it again the other night and it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
Thanks
I
so
loved
much,
it. It
man.
was so funny.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Man, coming from comics means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna it could be hard sometimes sitting through an hour special. When yours was over, I was like, that was it, huh?
Yeah.
I wanted more.
Oh my god, just
Yeah.
the storytelling and bringing it all full circle all the time
Right,
was
right.
like the callbacks.
Well,
I know you hate people bringing up your bits, but when you said that everyone's buttholes were so tight that a Japanese toilet couldn't, I literally fucking lost
oh,
it.
right.
So
I was happy when you made fun of people who Amazon just a pen, because as a comic, I have just purchased one pen on Amazon before and had it sent to my house, a wooden pen. It
Was
so
it like a
funny.
special one?
It was just a nice fancy pen. It was
Yeah.
like $10. I was like, I'll Amazon
One
that shit.
pen.
We'll prime it. It'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was. And when I watched your special, I was like, wow, that was a waste. Why'd I do that
Yeah.
for one pen?
Yeah.
And we're in the aisle. You're Jack Byram.
Yep, Jack_Byram.
I'm at Dan Lamort. You people know this. I don't have any dates. I'll book in a tour in March. It'll be up then. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, wait. Let me just add in, if you made it this far, this is the episode that I'm pretty sure we'll have our theme song ready by. So I want to give a quick thank you to one of the greatest punk rock bands of all time, Bowling for Soup. Thank you for the great theme song. It's wonderful. Jaret, Reddick, the front man of the band, thank you for taking the time to do it. If it's not ready by then, we'll just edit this out. But if you're hearing this, that means you heard a cool theme song.
We hope you laughed and you didn't cry. We hope you enjoyed your turkey on rye. But for now, goodbye from